We utilized the funds from your mother-in-law's savings for this journey. Eventually, it will become Tyler's inheritance regardless, so it should be acceptable, correct? Immediately after my mother's passing, my brother and his spouse hurried over, not to offer sympathies, but to acquire her bank records and withdraw her savings before I could submit her death certificate to the government office. You utilized Mom's funds? Hem. Attempting to suppress my frustration, I inquired of Carol, who nonchalantly replied, "Yes, we spent approximately $10,000 on the trip, haha." The boldness of my brother and his spouse, who colluded to utilize my mother's funds without consent, filled me with fury momentarily. However, then I recollected something. Right, these individuals are unaware. I couldn't help but laugh. My sympathies. Carol appeared perplexed by my sudden laughter. What is amiss with you? Did the shock of us utilizing the funds drive you mad? Naturally, I wasn't going insane. I simply couldn't help but laugh when I envisioned the astonished expressions on my brother and his spouse's faces when they discovered the truth and their unfortunate destiny. Their carefree days were likely limited. I am Samantha, an exceedingly ordinary office employee raised by benevolent parents. My parents were always kind-hearted, consistently contemplating what they could do for others. Their kindness occasionally led them to being deceived or burdened with unjust responsibilities, but I admired them nonetheless. However, my brother Tyler possessed a wholly different personality. He was perpetually calculating what was advantageous for him, and in accordance with the situation, our parents, who went out of their way to assist others, seemed unfathomable to him. As Tyler matured, his defiance towards our parents grew stronger. During his time in high school, he began demanding more money from them, asserting that if they were capable of helping others, they should be able to provide him with a larger allowance. Despite accepting Tyler's individuality, our parents remained steadfast in their beliefs. Their unwavering nature only served to further frustrate him. Tyler's negative emotions towards our parents continued to intensify during his college years. Taking advantage of the fact that our parents covered his tuition fees, Tyler spent his time in college partying and ultimately failed a year, causing them distress. Shouldn't parents naturally dedicate themselves to their children? Or is it possible to show kindness to others, but not to one's own family? Tyler persisted in his self-centered behavior, justifying it in this manner. I once overheard him boast to his friends, saying, "My parents are so naive, lol." After graduating from college, Tyler moved out and started living on his own. Even though he left home without notice, he complained, "I can't live a decent life with my first paycheck," and repeatedly returned to our parents' house to request financial support before going back to his own place. Our parents worried about him and continued to provide him with money as he asked. When I found a job, I made the decision to financially support our parents in place of Tyler. Samantha, it's your hard-earned money, so you can use it however you please. Although our parents said this, I wanted to assist them. I continued to provide financial assistance to them, as if it were their household expenses. This way of life persisted for several years until one day, Tyler, who usually only came to ask for money, unexpectedly invited me and our parents to a restaurant for a discussion. When we arrived at the meeting place, I noticed a beautiful woman sitting next to Tyler. "Dad, Mom, Samantha, please allow me to introduce my girlfriend, Carol," he said. Carol nodded her head politely. Tyler then dropped a bombshell. He had decided to marry Carol. They were now busy preparing for their new life together and the upcoming wedding, and he hoped that we would support them. Initially, I thought that Tyler meant support in terms of taking care of Carol. However, it turned out that he had a completely different idea in mind. He asked our parents to cover the expenses for the wedding and their new home. Knowing our parents' inability to refuse help to others, he skillfully convinced them to shoulder all the costs. Even after the wedding and the purchase of the new home, Tyler continued to receive money from our parents. Carol, his wife, quickly grew accustomed to this lifestyle and started living more extravagantly. Unfortunately, this lavish lifestyle was short-lived. Our father's health began to decline, and he had to be hospitalized. Despite having insurance, hospital stays are costly. Concerned about our retired parents' financial well-being, I suggested to my brother that we both contribute towards the hospital bills. I have been living at home and receiving assistance from Mom and Dad, and you have also received significant financial support from them, right? This is the time for us to step up and help them, I urged him. But my sibling didn't agree. What? Why should I? It's our father's fault for not taking care of his well-being. He neglected himself while assisting others. That is his duty. Following that, my sibling completely stopped going to our parents' residence. Neither they nor Carol visited our father even once while he was hospitalized. My mother and I desperately cared for him, but he passed away. Even when we informed them of our father's demise, they did not assist with the funeral preparations. They briefly appeared at the funeral, but did not properly greet our relatives and promptly left. Our relatives looked at them with contempt, but they probably didn't care. My mother, who bravely acted as the main mourner during the funeral, began to lose her strength after the ceremony, clearly affected by the loss of my father. Tyler, Mom has been feeling down lately. She wants to see you. Can you visit her at home occasionally? When I inquired with my sibling, they pondered for a moment and then said, by the way, what happened to Dad's inheritance? It all went to Mom. It appears they had decided that's what they would do while Dad was still alive. I understand. So Mom now has the money, correct? Sensing a negative intuition, I immediately cautioned my sibling. As I mentioned before, Mom is mentally vulnerable right now. Please don't attempt to take her money, all right? I want you to come and uplift her spirits. What's the purpose of going if I can't obtain any money? It's not worthwhile. When I insisted that we wouldn't give him any money, they never visited our parents' residence. And then, 6 months after our father's passing, our mother also departed. Despite being aware of our mother's weakened condition, my brother displayed no concern. Upon learning of her demise, he hurried back to our parental home. I anticipated that he would fulfill his duties as the eldest son during the funeral, but to my surprise, he and his wife vanished. I attempted to reach him on his mobile phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Ultimately, I assumed the role of the primary mourner in his place and successfully concluded the funeral proceedings. It was a few days later when I finally managed to make contact with my brother. Oh, Samantha. This is Carol. When I dialed my brother's phone, Carol answered, Tyler is occupied with boarding procedures and is unable to answer the phone. Boarding procedures? Carol, where are you? We are at JFK Airport. We will be departing the United States in a few hours, haha. Are you leaving the United States and traveling abroad? Yes, we are embarking on an international journey. I was taken aback by my brother and his wife's decision to embark on a foreign trip immediately following our mother's passing. However, I was even more astounded by what Carol disclosed next. We are truly grateful to our mother-in-law, you know. Thanks to her, we are able to indulge in this extravagant overseas excursion. Haha. What do you mean by that? Well, we utilized our mother-in-law's savings for this trip. It was going to be Tyler's inheritance anyway, so why not? From Mom's savings? How did you acquire that money? When we visited her residence, we borrowed her bank book and signature. We knew that we wouldn't be able to withdraw funds once the submission of the death certificate prompted us to act quickly. The true motive behind the rush to our mother's residence after her passing was to retrieve her bank book and withdraw the funds before the death certificate was submitted. Are you utilizing our mother's funds? In an attempt to control my anger, I inquired with Carol, and she nonchalantly replied affirmatively, stating that they had already spent $10,000 on travel expenses. It was fortunate that Tyler's plan succeeded. Initially, I was furious at the audacity of my brother and his wife for using our mother's money without permission. However, a realization struck me. Indeed, they are unaware. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha ha, serves you right. Perplexed by my sudden outburst, Carol questioned my behavior, asking what was wrong with me and if the shock of them using the money had driven me mad. Tyler being the eldest son, it is only natural for him to inherit more, right? Chuckling, I responded, certainly. That's perfectly fine. I will relinquish my inheritance so that Tyler can inherit everything. Wasn't that your plan all along? Upon hearing this, Carol expressed delight, exclaiming, "Oh my, you're quite understanding, aren't you?" By the way, please ensure that all of our mother's mail is redirected to your residence from now on. Don't worry, it's a simple task. I will inform Tyler. Carol cheerfully ended the call. I did not hear from my brother again until their return from the trip. Samantha, Carol informed me that you are giving up your inheritance. Yes, but more importantly, did you arrange for the forwarding of our mother's mail? Yes, I took care of it immediately upon our return. Good to know. I have no intention of changing your perspective later, will you? Will you not admit that you should have received the inheritance after all? Of course not. I still firmly believe that my decision was the correct one. Well, it's only fair that as the eldest son, I inherit everything. Ha ha ha. My brother uttered these words and ended the conversation in high spirits. However, a few weeks later, he called again, sounding anxious. There is a notice of collection addressed to our mother in her mail. What is this about? Oh, is it from the bank? Our parents always had a desire to assist those in need and would accept any request. This included financial matters. If someone asked to borrow money, they would even take out loans from the bank to lend to others or act as guarantors if needed. As a result, their debt continued to grow. The amount of debt far exceeded their savings, so inheriting would undoubtedly put them in a precarious financial situation. Did you have knowledge of this? My brother raised his voice. You were aware that Mom had debt, right? Why didn't you say anything? There was no point in doing so. What? Are you saying it was pointless? You knew about the debt, so you renounced your inheritance, correct? If I had known, I would have done the same. That's impossible. Why on earth is it impossible? Tyler, you took money from Mom's bank account to go on vacation, didn't you? So what? What does that have to do with giving up the inheritance? It's a significant matter. What you did can be seen as a simple acceptance of the inheritance. Simple? What does that mean? Explain it in a way that I can comprehend. I clarified to my brother that by withdrawing money from our deceased relatives' accounts used for personal gain prior to the inheritance process were viewed as a simple acceptance of the inheritance. This concept was unfamiliar to me. Undoubtedly, not many individuals would even contemplate utilizing the savings of deceased family members for their own self-centered desires, so it is not a topic that arises in conversation. Your assertions seem fabricated, likely driven by your desire to obtain the inheritance for yourself. I happen to have an acquaintance who is a lawyer, you know. They will investigate and ascertain the truthfulness of your claims. Subsequently, my brother abruptly ended the call and apparently informed his lawyer acquaintance about our conversation. Later on, he called me back, but his previous confidence had dissipated. Samantha, you were correct. It seems I cannot relinquish my entitlement to the inheritance. It appeared that the lawyer had provided him with the same response I did. Finally, my brother came to the realization that he had inherited the burden of debt. He had incessantly besieged our parents for money, completely unaware that they were accumulating debt behind the scenes. It would not be an overstatement to say that he was partially responsible for contributing to this debt. Nevertheless, my brother desperately sought a way to evade repaying it. Considering their lavish spending habits, it was evident that he and his wife, Carol, did not possess substantial savings. They clearly lacked the means to settle the debt. In an attempt to persuade me, my brother employed a persuasive tone. Hey, Samantha, our parents are no longer with us, and it is just the two of us siblings now, isn't it? Isn't this the opportune moment to unite our efforts? Unite our efforts? What exactly do you mean? I believe we should collaborate to repay our parents' debt. Now is the time to demonstrate our filial devotion. Devotion, so disregard the bequest, and assist me in repaying half of the obligation. I let out a deep breath at my sibling's self-centered suggestion, which was insufficient and belated. What are you referring to? When our father was hospitalized, I proposed that we support our parents together, but you rejected me. I was occupied at that time. Regardless of how occupied you were, you never visited our father in the hospital, not even once, and you didn't provide any support to our grieving mother afterwards. I no longer want to hear the phrase filial devotion from someone like you. Having nothing more to say, I left my brother hanging. Have you ever performed any acts of kindness for others, Tyler? I am aware that you took advantage of our benevolent parents. However, no one will assist someone who is incapable of doing anything for others, even if they are family. But if you don't assist me, Carol and I will be unable to manage the debt on our own. Are you planning on abandoning your brother? We are family. When our father was in the hospital, you abandoned him, stating that it was his own fault for neglecting his health. This time, utilizing mom's savings is your own fault. I regret it, all right? I have changed. Have you? I still believe that you are merely desperate to alleviate your own debt. And even if you have changed, the person you should apologize to is no longer in this world. It is too late. I interrupted my brother and ended the call. I had no intention of assisting him after all the distress he had caused our parents over the years. Subsequently, Tyler and Carol found themselves burdened by financial obligations and unable to maintain their previous carefree lifestyle. As a result, their relationship quickly deteriorated. However, the cost of living separately was too high, so they had no choice but to remain married, despite constant arguments. Initially, they attempted to save money and gradually pay off their debt from their salaries, but their efforts were short-lived. Both Tyler and Carol couldn't let go of their extravagant habits and secretly spent money behind each other's backs, preventing any progress in reducing their debt. Consequently, they blamed one another for their inability to make a dent in their financial burdens, further damaging their relationship. Their marriage continued to crumble in this destructive cycle. Meanwhile, I finally found the opportunity to properly grieve for our parents. During their funeral, numerous attendees tearfully expressed their gratitude for the assistance our parents had provided them during times of need. Realizing the extent of our parents' generosity made me even more proud of them. It was ironic that my brother, who had never shown appreciation and had often caused trouble for our parents, ended up shouldering the debt resulting from their acts of kindness. Despite being overwhelmed by financial obligations, I still admired our parents for their unwavering commitment to helping others. With these thoughts in mind, I continue to honor our parents at the family altar every day. Every day, I uphold the tradition of honoring our parents by offering my reverence at the ancestral shrine. These contemplations guide my actions and serve as a constant reminder of the importance of familial bonds.